Hey guys, Amanda here to lead you through a Happy Healthy Hips series. I wanted to bring this to light because a lot of us really hold a lot of attention into those hips. Oftentimes our hips are where we carry a lot of our emotions. So it's the perfect point in time to work through those hips. You know, if you're sitting in an office all day, sometimes our hips can get very tender. Our hips do carry all those emotions into it. So it's a very perfect practice to work a little bit deeper into those hips and allow ourselves to expand a little bit further into this practice. So roll out your mat and join me today on this series, and I hope to see you there. Hey guys, we'll start off this practice today with easy posture. So let's bring our right ankle in front of the left. Inhale, we'll begin to rise up through that chest, and exhale, begin to send those fingertips forward. Slowly begin to inch those fingertips a little bit further forward and begin to round the forehead down towards the floor. Plant a lot of weight into those palms and actively press your sits bones back down into the floor. Coming into a nice gentle opening through that right hip here. Finding length and space into your breath, and if you want to, you're more than welcome to sway your head gently from side to side, opening up a little bit further through the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Good. On our next inhalation, begin to gently walk yourselves all the way back up, and we'll go to that opposite side. So let's begin to bring your left ankle in front of your right. Inhale once again, find a little bit of length up through your spine, and exhale, send your fingertips forward. Slowly begin to walk those fingertips out in front of the body, and again, only come down as far as it feels okay for you today. We'll inhale, find a little bit more length through the spine. Exhale, send your chest, your forehead down towards the floor. Plant a lot of weight into those palms so you're actively pressing your sits bones back down into the floor. Find that length and space into your breath. On your next inhalation, once again, let's slowly begin to walk ourselves all the way back up. Good. On our next exhalation, we're going to come all the way around into our tabletop position. So once you've landed into your tabletop, let's do some cat and cows to just warm up through that spine. So firmly plant the hands underneath of the shoulder balls. Inhale, begin to rise up through your chest, plant your belly down towards the floor. Exhale, we'll hinge from the hip, round through that back, arching up through the shoulders, let the crown of the head fall down to the floor. Again, let's flow through with that own breath here. So inhaling, rising up through that chest. And exhaling, hinging, rounding through that spine, arching up through the back. Let the crown fall heavy. Good. Let's flow through about 3 more rounds with your own breath. And really begin to focus in on your breath here. Maybe even seeing if you can find a slight constriction into that throat. So you're coming into your sounded breath. And when you finish your third and final round, we'll come all the way back into your neutral spine, coming into your neutral tabletop. On our next exhalation, we're going to curl those back toes under, send those hips back, come into your very first downward facing dog. Start to pedal out those feet for this first down dog. Walk those heels down to the floor. Looking back towards the toes. On our next exhalation, send those heels all the way down to the floor. Take 2 more full deep breaths. Take a slight bend into the knees if you need to, and actively press those hips back. On our next inhalation, let's look forward. Exhale, we're going to send that right foot in between the hands. Exhale, bring your left knee down to the floor. So we're really opening up through that hip flexor here. Shift that left knee back a little bit further. You can bring those hands to that thigh if that feels good. You'll feel that nice deep stretch into that left hip flexor. If you want to take it a little bit further, we'll inhale, rise those fingertips up towards the sky. Roll those shoulder blades back and down from the body. Breathing here again. If your shoulders are tender, bring your hands into heart center or maybe even down beside the hips. Opening up through the heart and the chest. If you want to take this a little bit more active today, on our next exhalation, let's begin to bring those fingertips down to the floor. Slowly, slowly begin to curl the back toes under. Rise that left knee up off the floor, but only rise it up just slightly here so that your left hip flexor is still nice and activated here. Feeling that nice, deep, energetic line into that left hip flexor. Breathe. Finding length and depth into your breath. On our next exhalation, we're going to heel toe that right foot out to the outside edge of your mat. Slowly begin to bring that right hand onto the instep of your right foot. You can always bring that left knee down to the floor, uncurl the back toes. Maybe begin to roll onto the side of your right foot, so you're opening up a little bit further into that right hip. If you want to take it a little bit further, you can roll it down onto those forearms. Maybe even bring a block in underneath of the forearms if the floor feels a little too far away. If you want to take it a little bit more active today, you can stay right here, or if you want to activate a little bit deeper, curl your left toes under, rise that left knee up off the floor. So taking it just a little bit more active for this posture, working into that left hip flexor and into your right hip. Finding length and depth into your breath. Finding your hold. On our next inhalation, we'll begin to rise back up onto the base of those hands. Exhale, we'll begin to rotate back onto that right hip. Keep that left hand firmly planted underneath of your left shoulder ball. We'll inhale, rise that right arm up to the sky. And exhale, let's plant that right hand back down to the floor. Send your right toe to the back of the mat. Come all the way back into your downward facing dog. Again, if you need to, take a slight bend into those knees and press your hips a little bit further back. Allow your head to fall heavy, looking back towards the toes. On our next inhalation, let's look forward, send that left foot through. Plant your right knee down to the floor. Uncurl the back toes. Inhale, begin to rise the fingertips up to the sky. Again, rise those fingertips up. Roll the shoulder blades back and down from the body. If you want to take it a little bit further here, you're always welcome to bring the fingertips down to the floor. Maybe your shoulders are tender. Bring your hands down to the heart center, or maybe down beside the hips. If you want to activate a little bit deeper through that right hip flexor, let's begin to bring those fingertips down to the floor. Curl your right toes under, rise your right knee up off the floor just slightly here. So you're still feeling that energetic line into that right hip. Find length and space into that breath. Finding support and stability within your body. On our next exhalation, we'll begin to heel toe that left foot to the outside edge of your mat, bringing that left hand onto the inside of your left foot. We'll begin to bring your right knee down to the floor. Again, you can stay right here if this is deep enough posture for you. You're always welcome to just slightly roll onto the side of that left foot, hanging out with those hands underneath of the shoulder balls. If you want to take it a little bit further, you're always welcome to bring the forearms down to a block or maybe to your mat. And if you want to take it a little bit further from here, you're welcome to curl your right toes under, rise that right knee up off the floor, taking it just a little bit deeper into both of those hips. Activating a little bit further into this posture, finding a little bit more strength and stability. So taking it to where it feels good for you today. And again, if you've taken it a little bit too far, you're always welcome to bring it back. So bringing your right knee back down to the floor if you need, or maybe even rising it back up. Awesome. Whenever you are ready, let's firmly plant those hands underneath of the shoulder balls. Slowly, slowly begin to curl those back toes under. Rise that left foot back onto its base. If you need to, you can always keep your right knee down to the floor, or maybe rise it up, left arm up to the sky. Finding a twist through your pose. Exhale, we'll bring that left hand back down to the floor. Slowly begin to press those hips back into your downward facing dog. Take one full inhale, exhale, sigh that out. On our next inhalation, let's look forward. Exhale, slowly begin to walk those feet up towards the top of the mat. Inhale, we'll lift that halfway up. Exhale, hinge and fold. Inhaling, let's lift that halfway up. Heel toe those feet as wide as your mat and coming at a 45-degree angle, so toes pointed out. Exhale, we'll slowly begin to sink those hips down, coming into your malasana. So hands into heart center. Actively press the elbows onto the insides of the knees, rising up through that chest. Finding that length and depth into your breath. Rooting that crown of the head up towards the sky. Keep actively pressing those knees out a little bit further, finding length and space into those hips. Good. On our next exhalation, we'll begin to extend those fingertips out in front of the body. Slowly begin to roll down onto the bum. We'll do a little bit of core work here to strengthen a little bit more through those abdominals. So lengthening the toes out towards the front of the room, finding a little bit more length up through your spine. You can always bring the hands to the thighs. If it's a little bit too deep to bring those hands out in line with the knees, breathe wherever you can here today. So you can always take it a little less, maybe a little bit more active, and maybe even a little bit further active. So take it to your practice. Good. On our next exhalation, let's begin to bring those feet back down to the floor. Open those knees up nice and wide. So we're going to come into our Baddha Konasana. Let's begin to wrap those middle finger and index fingers around the big toes. Inhale, find that length up through the spine. And exhale, slowly begin to hinge down over top of the legs. Round the crown of the head down to the tips of the toes. Release the feet. And begin to plant the hands onto the insides of your feet. Gently begin to peel the feet apart from one another. So you're opening your feet up like a nice little book here, really opening up through those hips. And again, if you want to, you're always welcome to sway your head from side to side, letting go of any tension in between the neck, the shoulders, wherever you're feeling any tenderness here. On our next inhalation, we'll slowly begin to uncurl it all the way back up to a seated. Exhale, begin to plant those hands underneath of the knees and gently begin to bring them back towards one another. From here, we're going to come out into our straddle position. So if you want to, you can take it out a little bit on towards out to your horizontal if you'd like to. We'll bring those legs out nice and wide. Plant your hands behind your hips and gently begin to press your hips a little bit more forward. We'll find that length up through the spine. Begin to extend those fingertips out in front of the body. Inhale, find a little bit more length, and exhale, once again, send those fingertips forward. Use that length up through your spine. So come down with as flat as back as possible. And then slowly begin to extend your forearms down towards the floor. So only take it as far as it feels good. Again, if you have a block, you're always welcome to bring your forearms to a block. Take it to your variation of this practice. Keep actively flexing the toes back towards the face. So you're protecting through those joints, protecting through those knees. Keep a nice activation, long line through those legs. So we're keeping it nice and protected today. Once again, we'll find a little bit more length and depth into your breath. Finding space for about 3 more full deep breaths. On your next inhalation, let's slowly begin to inch your way all the way back up. On our next exhalation, let's plant those hands underneath the thighs. Gently begin to bring the knees back towards one another. Awesome. Once we have those feet together, let's let the feet float out a little bit wider than its standard Baddha Konasana, and just give your hips a nice gentle sway, butterfly from side to side. Letting go of that tension here. And whenever we're ready, we're going to once again stay horizontal onto the mat. We're going to roll up onto those knees. We're going to come into a little bit of a deeper variation into this posture. So we're coming into our frog's pose. So really big depth into those hips. We'll begin to open those knees up nice and wide. Bring those knees in line with the ankles. So ankles in line with the knees. And again, you can stay right here with the hands underneath of the shoulder balls if this is nice and active for you. If you want to take it a little bit further, you're always welcome to bring those forearms down to a block. Maybe all the way down to the floor. If you want to take it a little bit further from here, we'll keep those hips in line with the knees and actively begin to root your chest down to the floor. So maybe begin to bring your chin down to the hands, taking it as active as it feels good in your body. And if you've taken it there a little too far, you're always welcome to bring it back up. If you want to bring it back up to the forearms or maybe bring it back up to the hands. We're going to find space here for at least 5 more full breaths. So finding a space to hang out, taking it to just about your edge so you can hang out there for a few moments longer. And again, as I noted at the beginning of this practice, our hips are where we carry a lot of our emotions. So if you are beginning to feel some laughter bubbling up inside of you, maybe you're feeling some, sentimental emotions bubbling up, just notice what those are. Noticing what you're feeling within your body, seeing if you can recognize that, and then just gently begin to let it float away from the body. Recognize what it is that's allowing you to bubble up, and then allow it to just float away. Become a silent observer of those thoughts, a silent observer as we work through these emotions here. Finding space for about 3 more breaths. On your next inhalation, we'll begin to rise it back up onto the base of those hands. Exhale, we'll slowly begin to press those hips forward, bring the toes together, and then sink those hips back into a wide knee child's pose. So you can extend those fingertips out in front of the body. Let your forehead fall heavy into the floor, coming into your nice gentle wide knee child pose. Let your forehead fall heavy. Take a few moments for about 3 more breaths. And again, you're welcome to roll your head from side to side. Once again, giving yourselves a nice gentle massage into that forehead. On our next inhalation, we'll once again begin to walk yourselves all the way back up. Exhale, let's begin to scoop those feet all the way around to the front of your mat. And we'll begin to lower ourselves down onto the floor. Once we've landed onto the floor, let's gently begin to hug both knees in towards the chest. And taking it nice and slow. Awesome. Once we've had those knees in towards the chest, we'll begin to open those knees up nice and wide. Gently press the knees down towards the shoulder balls. You're welcome to find a gentle rock sway in through those hips. You're welcome to stay right here. If you want to take it a little bit further, bring it up into your happy baby pose. So taking hold of either the ankles or the bottoms of the feet, gently press those knees down towards the floor, coming into a nice deep hip opener here. Slowly begin to rock it, sway it from side to side. Allowing for a nice gentle openness through those hips. And again, you can sway that head from side to side, allowing your body to really surrender into this posture. On our next exhalation, let's begin to bring those toes together. Keep your knees opened up nice and wide. We'll interlace the fingers either around the ankles or around the feet. Gently press your knees up towards the front of the room. So root your sacrum deeply down into the floor. Elongate through your spine. Let your head stay heavy into the floor. Finding that length and depth into your breath. Maybe find a gentle sway in through the hips. You want to sway it slightly from side to side. And our next exhalation, let's release hold of those feet. Begin to once again hug the knees back down to the center line. Plant those hands to the very tops of the knees, and we're going to start off with some hip circles here. So begin to open the knees up nice and wide. Slowly begin to circle the knees around to the front of the room. Bring them back towards one another and all the way back up through to center. So opening the knees up nice and wide. Circle them all the way back around to the top and into center. Finding a few more breaths here to allow that tension to ease from those hips. And whenever we're ready, we'll begin to go into that opposite direction. So keep the knees together, press them up towards the front of the room. Open your knees up nice and wide and circle them back around to the top. Once again, bring them back into center. Press them up towards the front of the room and circle them back around to the top. We'll do about 3 more rounds here. Again, connecting a little bit more into your breath. When you finish that third and final hip circle, we'll begin to bring those knees back in towards the chest. Exhale, begin to plant one foot down at a time onto the floor. And from here, we'll come into our reclining Baddha Konasana before we come down into our final relaxation. So bring those feet together, open your knees up like a book. Let those knees fall up nice and wide. If you want to, you're welcome to keep your hands onto the thighs, adding some gentle pressure. Or if you want to take it a little bit more relaxed, you can lie with those palms facing up, roll the shoulder blades back and down from the body. Maybe you want to connect a little bit deeper with your breath. You can bring one hand to the chest and one hand to the belly. And begin to notice that rise and fall of your belly, and the rise and fall of your chest. Maybe even finding space here to close down those eyes. And you can stay here for as long as you'd like. If you want to hang out in this hip opener for a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to pause this video. Whenever you are ready, let's come down into our final relaxation. So lengthening the legs out from the body. Begin to lie with those palms facing up. Once again, roll your shoulder blades back in underneath of the body if they're not already there. Let the feet float out a little bit wider. Let your arms float out a little bit wider. Take up a little extra space if you have it. Find that space to close down those eyes. And noticing the connection beneath you of your body sinking a little bit deeper into the earth. Seeing if you can allow your muscles to relax a little bit deeper. Noticing where you're feeling a little bit of tension and seeing if you can find some breath to exhale it a little bit deeper into the floor. Taking these next few moments for your mind, your body, your spirit. And seeing if you can hang out here, allowing our bodies to find a gentle softness. Shavasana is the most important part of your practice. So really allow it to soak up all the work that we just did into those hips. If you have a little extra time today, you're welcome to stay into your Shavasana. Whenever you are ready to find a link back to your breath and move, we'll slowly begin to find a little bit more depth into the breath. Maybe find a gentle wiggle through the fingers and the toes. On our next inhalation, begin to lengthen those arms up towards the top of the room, toes down towards the front of the room. Exhale, begin to scoop the air from around you, hug both knees in towards the chest, and find a nice gentle rock and roll from side to side. And then beginning to roll off onto one side or the other, the left or the right, lying with that underarm up and overhead as a nice little pillow. On your next inhalation, gently begin to rise yourselves back up to a seated position. We're just going to sit nice and comfortably once again. We'll begin to lengthen up through that spine, root the crown of the head up towards the sky. Bring those hands to either the tops of the knees. And you can plant your palms facing down if you want to soak up a little less energy today. If you're feeling like gaining a little bit more energy from the space, from the energy that you created within your practice, sit with those palms facing up. And we'll take a few moments here to really begin to reflect onto our practice. Maybe even begin to notice what emotions began to bubble up for you, or maybe even nothing bubbled up for you, and that's okay. Noticing where your practice took you today as we worked through those hips, and becoming a silent observer of that. Noticing what took place within your body, what took place within your mind, and being okay with that. Let's bring those hands into heart center. And I'd like to thank you all so much for coming and practicing with me today. Namaste. Thank you guys so much once again for practicing with me today through that Happy Healthy Hips series. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you next time.